In my previous video, I absolutely gutted my home library, and I got rid of a lot of the old BookTok books I did not enjoy or am no longer interested in reading, and I'm in need of a library refresh heading into 2026. Let's go on a frugal and fruitful book shopping day. For today's shopping trip, I have a $100 budget and a very specific list of books that we're looking for. I love to go in a bookstore and just meander and see what speaks to me, but today we are on a mission. This week I curated my 26 books that I want to read in 2026, and I don't have all of them. I have over half of them, but there are still some that I don't have. So we're gonna go to Barnes because they have a 25% off the entire store sale, plus I'm a member, so I get an extra 10% off, and I have $100 in gifts from Christmas. So I'll share my entire list with you at the end of the video, but for now, these are the books that I'm gonna be shopping for. And we are sticking to the list because we're on a budget. So like I said, I did plan this ahead, and I do have my list already curated for the 26 books that I'm planning on reading in 2026. I got rid of the new releases just because that's like a given. Like obviously I'm gonna read those books, so I didn't want to put them on my list because this time around I wanted to push myself by reading a lot more new genres to me, a lot more Christian, a lot more classics. So this list doesn't really have a lot of 2026 releases in it. It just has books that I want to push myself to read this year. But what I did was I went through on Amazon first and foremost, and I looked at what was on Kindle Unlimited. And if it was on Kindle Unlimited, I took it off the to buy list, because if I'm paying for Kindle, I'm going to use it. And if I love the book and I want it to be on my shelf, after I'm done reading the Kindle version, I will allow myself to buy it if the budget allows. And also, if you guys didn't know, I have a book club on Fable, and if you refer anybody to join Fable, you get a $5 credit for their ebook catalog. So I have like $100 in credit on there as well, but some of them are super cheap. In fact, some of the classics are free, so I did pick up a couple of those for free on Fable. I do still have money on there. However, some of their ebooks are super cheap, but some are basically the price of a paperback. So I did go through and I have all of them added to my cart on Fable, just in case I can't find them in store. And I also went through on Amazon to check the prices of all of these books. Of course, I'm going to be shopping in the small local bookstores in the future, but however, that's just not for today's video because we are on a strict budget and I'm trying to get as many books as I can for under $100. Now let's get to the list. The books that I'm going to be looking for in store today are number 1, Crime and Punishment, The Brothers Karamazov, I don't know if I'm saying that right, East of Eden, The Power and the Glory, Animal Farm, 1984, and Of Mice and Men. Those are all of the classics that I'm going to be hunting for. And for fantasy, I'm looking for Empire of Silence. However, it is a cheaper ebook to buy on Fable, so I'm having that on my maybe to buy list, but I'm probably going to get that one on Fable just to save more money because that I think is for some reason the most expensive book. That and East of Eden is $23 on Amazon for a paperback, and I'm like, ugh, why are books so expensive? Like they used to be so cheap. But moving on to the Christian fantasy category, most of these I either have or are on Kindle Unlimited, but there are 2 that I have on my to buy list. We have This Present Darkness, which this is also on Fable, and I cannot find this book anywhere. Like it's not on Amazon. It is not anywhere that I've checked in person. So I might just have to get that one on Fable with my credit, but that's okay because it'll save me some money. And Till We Have Faces by C.S. Lewis. I have one nonfiction book on my to buy list today, and it is The Common Rule. The cover says Habits of Purpose for an Age of Distraction. And I am so distracted lately because I have like 1,000,002 things going on all the time, and I need to have better discipline and better purpose. So I'm excited to read that book and see what nuggets of wisdom are in there. Hopefully I can find it in person. I've never heard of it before, and it doesn't have a lot of reviews on Goodreads, so we will see. I might have to order that one. But before we do any shopping, let's go get some coffee. If you're local to the Norfolk, Virginia Beach area, I get my espresso beans from Cafe Stella because they fill this tin for you, and it's way cheaper bringing in your tin to get a refill than it is to buy just a brand new bag every time, and they roast their beans fresh. So highly recommend. And every time you fill a tin, they give you a free drink too. So it's really a bang for your buck, and the beans are great and always fresh. So I'm gonna stop there and get those refilled, get some drinks, and then we will head to Barnes. I couldn't get much footage in the cafe because I was double fisting beans and lattes, but I got the goods secured. I refilled my 2 tins of espresso beans, so now I can go back to making coffee at home. But now let's head to Barnes. It is super busy in here and there's music playing, so I don't want to get copyrighted, but these are all of the books that I found so far. And now I'm going to have to do some math here to see if we're going to be within budget or not. Ironically, there's no Christian books. Not ironically. Obviously, I wasn't able to find a lot of the Christian books that I wanted here, but I did find most all of the classics and my one sci-fi book. This one wasn't on my list, but I do really want to read White Nights by Dostoevsky as well, and this is a book that has multiple novels put into one, and it does have that one in it. And then I found Crime and Punishment, Empire of Silence, which this paperback is $26, so I'm pretty sure I'm just gonna go ahead and get that one on Fable and save some money. And then I found 1984 by George Orwell, and also I found Animal Farm by George Orwell. I found Of Mice and Men by John Steinbeck, but they did not have a copy of East of Eden, so I'll have to get that one. Oh, I just realized I have 2 copies of Mice and Men. I found this one earlier, but I think I'm gonna get the Penguin Classic version instead. And this one was a win. I got the last copy of The Power and the Glory by Graham Greene. So now I'm gonna sit down and do some math and see what we can afford. So right now it's an estimated with the sale of $72. So we do have some money to spare to pick up the other books that I wasn't able to find on today's list. So I think I'm gonna go ahead and put away Empire of Silence and get that one on Fable. But I'm gonna go on Amazon and see the total of all of the other books that I wasn't able to find today, and we'll see if we have enough to get that one or not. Okay, this is the book stack I'm settling on, but my phone just died and my kids are ready to go, so let's go check out. We are back and the books are secured. It's been a few weeks since I went shopping at Barnes, and guys, some of these books I have been looking for in the used bookstore for over a year now, but this weekend I found like 4 of the books that were on my thrift wish list, and they were in perfect condition. And I was just saying, oh, I'm gonna have to like buy these on Amazon or read them on Fable because they don't sell them anywhere else, but I found them. Now there are still a few of the books that I am not planning on purchasing until I read them, so I will be reading some on my Kindle, but most of this list is books that are living on my shelf that will be read in the year of 2026. Just a side note, this year I read close to 90 books, but I don't want to do that again. I've set my reading goal at 50 books this year because number 1, I want to read slower. Number 2, I want to read larger books. And number 3, I want to have more time to write, take care of my home, and have more time to be more consistent with my uploads. And just overall, the only goal I really have is to slow down and be more intentional this year. So that's why my reading goal is much less than it has been in previous years. So with that being said, if I read 50 books, 26 books is basically half of that. Like half of my year of reads is already planned, which is kind of crazy when you look at it that way. But without further ado, let's just get into the 26 books that I'm going to be reading in 2026. Now, I don't have them categorized by author or anything, but I do have them categorized by genre. So let's just start off with historical fiction, since that is just at the top of my shelf here. I have 3 historical fictions that I'm planning on reading this year. Number 1 is The Book Thief by Marcus Zusak. I've only heard stellar raving reviews about this book. I think it takes place during a time of war and it's told from Death's point of view. And that's literally all I know about it. I don't know anything else. I want to go into this completely blind. I don't want anything spoiled for me. I just want to go in and experience the story with no preconceived notions. And by the way, all 26 of these books are 5-star predictions. So I'm not going to fill half of my reading year with books that is like, oh, I think I'm gonna like these. No, every single book that I'm gonna be mentioning, I'm expecting to be a 5-star read. So obviously this is no exception. Next, we have another wartime. Actually, I think all of these 3 books take place during some sort of war. I find that I really like historical fiction novels that take place during a time of war. The Kite Runner by Khaled Hosseini. I believe this takes place during the Afghanistan war, and it's a friendship between a kid and an American soldier. I may have just completely made that up, but I feel like I've heard that before, and like I said, I don't know a lot about this because I want to just go in completely blindsided and experience the story for the first time without anything that could potentially ruin the story for me, because I feel like a lot of people say this is one of their favorite books of all time, and that it's also heart-wrenching. So I will have my tissues at the ready when I'm reading this. And the last historical fiction book I have is Homeseeking by Carissa Chen. This has been on my radar ever since Ashlyn first read it. I feel like earlier last year she read this. It was a really long time ago, but it's been on my radar, and I found this at our local buy-sell bookstore. That's why it's a book of the month copy. I don't have book of the month. I've been thinking about getting it though. I don't really want to sign up for a subscription right now, but I have been eyeing that. And this one is also taking place during a time of war, but it's also, I think, before war and after war.
What did you say to the lights?
I didn't say anything. I believe these two characters had a relationship of some sort, and it's told over the span of I think 40 years or something like that. The way it's told is like you start with the after and then you get the before and then it kind of meets in the middle. For an author to be able to tell a story well written in that format is really impressive, and it's going to be more of a unique reading experience because of that. It's not like start to finish, it's kind of jumping around timelines, and I love when books do that. It keeps me hooked, it keeps me entertained, and I really love character-driven novels, and this one is character-driven with two individuals. Very, very excited to be reading this one this year. So these are the 3 historical fiction novels that I will be reading, and now let's move on to the next category. We'll just do fantasy, because I think that's next on my shelf. I have 3 books here that are strictly fantasy, but I also have a whole separate category of Christian fantasy. And then I have a fantasy mixed in with my classics as well. So this isn't the only fantasy I'm going to be reading, but it's kind of the only like secular epic fantasy that I have. This one is technically a sci-fi. It is Empire of Silence by Christopher Rocchio. Initially, I wasn't going to buy this because it was expensive. However, I returned a book to Barnes & Noble and used the credit to buy this, so I did end up getting it. A bookstagrammer that I trust, I think he's called Faith and Fiction. He posts the best book recommendations, and obviously he's a Christian, so all of his book reviews are told through the lens of a fellow Christian. And he said there's a lot of allegorical elements in this series, which is what made me flip the switch to being interested, to being extremely intrigued, and I'm going to read it. And I have no idea what this is actually about. I just know there's a lot of politics and there's some Christian allegory mixed in there. It's not a Christian book by any means, but if you're a Christian and you're reading it, you will pick up on the battle between good and evil and corrupt governments and all of that kind of stuff, and I love books like that. That's the only sci-fi I have. Anywho, this could be considered a classic, but I included it in the fantasy category, A Game of Thrones by George R.R. Martin. And the last fantasy I have is The Will of the Many by James Islington. I wasn't going to add this to this list because I have other books that are really long, and this one is also really long, but I read the first page of it and I was like, immediately yes. Immediately yes, I want to read it right now. The page art is beautiful. It has information about the world before you even get into the book. In the first paragraph of the book, because I'm dangling and it's only my father's blood-slicked grip around my wrist that stops me from falling. He's on his stomach stretched out over the rocky ledge. His muscles are corded. Sticky red covers his face, his arms, his clothes, everything I can see. Yet I know he can pull me up. I do everything I can not to struggle. I trust him to save me. He looks over my shoulder into the inky black, into the darkness that is to come. Courage, he whispers. He pours heartbreak and hope into the word. He lets go. Like, what a banger. What a way to start a book. Like, I want to read it now. Rereading that again, it's like, yeah, I want to read it now. Now, these 2 books are also fantasy, but this will be the bridge between fantasy and classics. I've got The Fellowship of the Ring, the first book in the Lord of the Rings trilogy. This needs no explanation. I read The Hobbit last year, and it was an easy read, but it was equally hard for me to get through. So I'm a little bit nervous to get into this, but sorry, my kids are playing around in their room. So if you hear any screaming, I'm not holding anybody hostage. I am really excited to get into this because I did love The Hobbit, but having his writing style, except in a more grim, more dark world, is something I think I'm gonna really love. And then I also have The Pilgrim's Progress by John Bunyan. Again, I said I could not find this anywhere. And then finally my Barnes just had 1 copy in stock. So I was like, yeah, we're gonna pick that up. And since it's a Penguin Classic Edition, it is on the cheaper end. This was only $11, but I had $5 Barnes credit, and I am also a member, so I got 10% off, so this was really cheap. This is all 100% Christian allegory. I think this is just all like spiritual warfare put into a fantasy book. As somebody who wants to write a Christian fantasy one day, I feel like this is required reading, so we're gonna get to this one this year. And now let's move on to the classics. I'm so excited that I discovered my love for reading classics. I've only read like 3, but honestly, that's all it took. 3 classic books, I'm addicted. I have like 11 classic books that I want to read this year, which would mean I have to read pretty much 1 a month in order to complete all of them on this list. Yeah. There you go. Starting off, we're just gonna be realistic. I have these 2 chunkers on the list. However, I have it written to be one or the other. Just being realistic, we're not reading both. This book is 1,000 pages. This book is 900 pages. There's no way we're getting to both if I'm planning on reading 50 books a year. The 2 options are The Brothers Karamazov by Fyodor Dostoevsky or The Count of Monte Cristo by Alexander Dumas. I've heard The Brothers Karamazov is some people's favorite work by Dostoevsky, and it is like one of their favorite books of all time. It It is a journey, it is character driven, it is dark, it is allegorical, and sign me up. That sounds like a recipe for a 5-star read for me. And The Count of Monte Cristo, I feel like I'm really gonna like this one because people say, although it looks unapproachable, it is actually written to be very approachable. It is action filled, it is a page turner, which is a good thing whenever it's like 1,000 pages. Maybe I could read both. Like if I put my mind to it and I had an audiobook to help me, I feel like I could read both. However, currently I have it just one or the other because I do actually seriously want to read all of these books. It's not just like a list of, oh, I would like to read these. Like this is almost my required reading list for the year. So I don't want to feel disappointed if I don't finish it. So I'm not going to stress myself out by putting 2,000 page books on it. We'll do one or the other. And if I can finish both of them, yay. Now some whiplash. This book is tiny. This is a tiny little book. It is White Nights, again by Dostoevsky. I'm planning on reading this in the month of February because it could be considered a romance. It is more so he's completely obsessed and yearning for this person that never even says his name. And the fact that it's this short, but it packs a punch for so many people makes me really excited to read it. I feel like it would be a good like anti-Valentine's Day read, especially like the cover is black, but it could be like a romance. I don't know. Some more classics. I got 1984 by George Orwell. Again, a classic I feel is going to resonate with modern day times. East of Eden by John Steinbeck. I have heard, again, some of my all-time favorite Bookstagrammers. I think his username is Chris Kind of Reads or Chris Reads, and Faith and Fiction. Both of them absolutely raved about this book, and it has been bumped to like the tippy top of my to read list. Again, it's filled with Christian allegory. Say less. The next classic again was recommended to me by Faith and Fiction. It is The Power and the Glory by Graham Greene. It takes place in Mexico in the late 1930s where a military group has outlawed the Catholic Church and is executing people. It says he's pulled between the bottle and the Bible and he's tempted to renounce his religion yet unable to ignore the higher calling he's chosen. I love books that don't shy away from dark topics but are able to convey the message well. It's not necessarily a gripe I have with Christian books, but it's just something that I personally prefer. I don't need something squeaky clean. I prefer something very real that deals with dark topics but sheds light on them instead of just dwelling in them. So I feel like this is going to be a book that I really love and really enjoy. Next we have another Dostoevsky, Crime and Punishment. I used to think that this was Crime and Punishment to read, but now I'm intrigued. Lock me up, I'm reading it. If you guys want reading vlogs of me reading any of these books, or if you want classic reading vlogs or anything like that, let me know if you have any video ideas for me for this year. In regards to any of these books or any other video requests, feel free to let me know. Next, I have To Kill a Mockingbird. And again, this is a lot of people's top favorite book of all time, and yet I know nothing about it. People just say, it's an amazing book, you need to read it, or it's my favorite book of all time. I've heard nothing about what the plot is about, so I'm just gonna read the last sentence of the little blurb on the back. A gripping, heart-wrenching, and wholly remarkable coming of age. Yes, love coming of age. As her father, a crusading local lawyer, risks everything to defend a black man unjustly accused of a terrible crime. Ooh, I love books that have trials in them. It just gives a very thrilling element for me without it being scary, but I get those thrilling vibes whenever I read books like that. Ooh, now I'm actually really excited to read this. I had no idea what it was about. I just found it at a used bookstore and I had credit, so I got this for free. I'm really looking forward to that. Maybe I should read that this month. I don't know. Every time I read the back of a book or I read the first page of a book, I'm like, oh, I want to read that. Obviously, it's on my shelf. I want to read it. I want to read every single book I own. And that's why I'm in the middle of 6 books currently. I need to stop doing that this year. I need to read one book at a time. It's probably not gonna happen though. Next, I've got Watership Down by Richard Adams. I heard this is a light and fluffy story about bunny rabbits with equally dark and grim tales about war and humanity. I think it's going to be reminiscent of The Hobbit in that way, where it's like you're dealing with dark topics, but yet it feels like a cozy adventure. And you guys know I loved the feeling of reading The Hobbit. The book itself wasn't necessarily my favorite, like it was good and I enjoyed it, but the reading experience felt like a warm hug on a cold rainy day, and I feel like this is gonna give the same feelings as when I read The Hobbit. I think I might read this one in March just because the cover and the fact that it's about bunnies, I don't know, that just kind of gives March or like April springy vibes. The next book I've actually already read, and it's Animal Farm by George Orwell. I gave this 5 stars. This, I feel, is a true masterpiece, not because it's overly complex or overly wordy or overly intellectual. I honestly, like, I have no words. I will put my Goodreads review up on the screen because honestly, I was just really speechless. Now, don't don't go into this book being like, oh, Carly loved it, it's a great story and it's about animals. No, like, don't read this book unless you are going in looking for a book to read in between the lines and pick up on the allegory, pick up on the metaphors, and not read the story for what it is, but read it for what it's trying to tell you. I just absolutely loved this book, and I actually started reading it on New Year's Eve and I finished it exactly at midnight. I wasn't planning on staying up that late. Daniel was deployed and the kids were in bed. It's like, I'm not gonna stay up to watch the ball drop or stay up till midnight. Like, I wanna get my sleep. So I was in bed at 9 o'clock and I was just reading this, and all of a sudden I finished it and fireworks started going off everywhere, and I was like, what the heck? And I checked my phone, it was midnight. And I couldn't tell you the last time I stayed up until midnight to read a book. So I'm so happy. This barely made the mark of being a 2026 read. I finished it at 12:00. So it counts. I read it this year. This was my first read of the year, my first 5-star of the year, my first classic of the year, my first George Orwell book, and it did not disappoint. Highly recommend. Loved this one. What makes it a masterpiece is the fact that it could be written so long ago from somebody that's not even from your country, and yet it is prevalent in today's day and age in our current country with our everything going on. It's just truly insane. And that's what really makes a classic, is that it can be read by anyone at any time and it's still gonna be relevant. Timeless, amazing, really, really love this one. I heavily annotated it. That's how you know it's good. I was like, wait, I gotta get my pen. That's all the classics I have. Now let's get into the Christian fantasy category. I have 4 books that I'm gonna talk about physically, and I have 3 books, I believe. Yeah, 3 books that I'm planning on reading on Kindle. So let's start off with the Kindle reads. I have, well, I didn't write the authors down, but I'll put the picture of the book up here and the author's name so you guys can check them out. But I have Dare, which I feel is going to give ACOTAR / Throne of Glass vibes, but Christian. And then Resistance and A War of Crowns, which I feel is going to give Game of Thrones vibes, but Christian. Really, really excited to read all of those 3. And the ones that I do have on my physical TBR, I was telling you guys I could not find this book anywhere, and then boom, I found it at a secondhand bookstore and I had credit, so I got it for free. And it's in perfect condition. This is the epitome of spiritual warfare put into fiction book form, but it deals with non-fiction topics, but it's entirely fiction. And I believe it's a fantasy as well. It says a small town is caught up in a new age plot to enslave the townspeople and eventually the entire human race. The physical world meets the spiritual realm as the battle rages between forces of good and evil. Say less. There's one thing that you guys should have learned by now in this video, is that give me all the Christian allegory, give me all the spiritual warfare, give me all of the good and evil. Next, I didn't know if I should put this in the classic category since it's C.S. Lewis, but I have Till We Have Faces, and this is kind of similar to This Present Darkness. Oh no, I'm thinking of the Screw Tape Letters. I think this one is actually about, it's like a myth. It's about Cupid and Psyche, except it's told from the perspective of Psyche's sister with deep Christian themes. So I'm really intrigued to see how he ties together a myth from false gods and put it into a category of Christian allegory. I'm very, very intrigued. And a lot of the Christian readers that I follow have also really, really enjoyed that one. Next, I have To Bind Fire by D.E. Carlson. I took off the dust jacket on this one because, hello, look at that cover art. I think this is giving Throne of Glass, but Christian. And it has dragons, and that's all I need to know. I'm gonna be reading this year. I've already read the first couple of pages just to get a feel for her prose, and I do enjoy it. And I love her dedication. It says, I dedicate this book to my husband. They say that if you treat a woman right, she will bloom. Let this book be evidence to the world of the power of your love in my life, and to the God of miracles, I won't forget. Like, how beautiful is that? That makes me just want to read this book immediately. And the last one I have is Caller by J.J. Fisher. Many of my Christian reader friends over on Instagram say that J.J. Fisher is one of the best Christian fantasy writers. And this is book 1 in the Nightingale trilogy. The last 2 books I have to share in today's video are also Christian, but they're just in like a general Christian category. I've got 1 Christian historical fiction and 1 Christian nonfiction. For historical fiction, I have A Voice in the Wind by Francine Rivers. I got this book well over a year ago, and I've been meaning to read it forever. And I saw that Rachel Catherine recently read this and she loved it, and she was equally as intimidated by it as I am. That's why I haven't read it yet. I've been putting it off because it's kind of chunky. There's a lot of words on the page, and I just was expecting it to be a slog, but she said that it was actually a lot easier to read and the story was a lot more of a page turner than she anticipated. So I think that gave me my final push, my final shove to give this a read. So I will be reading this one this year, and this will be my first Francine Rivers book. I do have Redeeming Love and The Masterpiece on my shelf. Those are also Christian fiction, but those are more so romance. So looking forward to reading that. And the last book I have to talk about in today's video, I'm halfway through. I know it doesn't look like it because the book is thick and my bookmark is right here, but this is actually, I think, 7 books put into one. I'm reading Mere Christianity by C.S. Lewis. I'm on page 70 and there's 177 pages in it. So I'm almost halfway through it. And I think this book is going to be reread immediately after I finish it. I'm annotating it heavily. It's just, there's so many rich, nourishing nuggets of wisdom in here that you need to just sit with. It's not a book that you can just read or an audiobook you can just listen to. This is taking me a really long time to read because these lines are powerful and I want them to sink into my brain instead of just gloss over them. And that's how you know it's a 5-star. Whenever it's going to be something that you just want to sit with and take up brain space and impact your life, this is that. It's not easy to do after I just did arm day yesterday. These are the 26 books that I'm gonna be reading in the year of 2026. If any of you have already read these books, let me know your thoughts in the comments. And also comment down below your 26 books that you're planning on reading in 2026 so I can do some snooping as well. But thank you guys so much for watching today's video. I pray you have a blessed day and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!